come off. And they finally have fallen off. Due to an injury last year, I'll be making my official announcement of my retirement from football. It's been the best 12 years of my life. It's a hell of a run. And I can't forget you, Patriot Nation. You guys have welcomed me and my family to a region we do not know, we didn't know. But now, I'm one of you. I'm gonna leave you guys with 2 words. Foxborough, forever.
Julian Edelman deciding to retire. We bring in our Patriots insider, Mike Giardi. Mike, when I think of Julian, I think grit, strength, toughness, champion. I think growth, as we've seen throughout 12 years. I think clutchness, maybe that should probably be the first word at the top of the list. What do you think of all of this? What is Julian Edelman's legacy up there in Foxborough and throughout the NFL? 12 seasons and 3 rings.
Okay, I was going to say he was a self-made man, right, and a self-made player, but I think I would be doing his father some discredit. His dad pushed Julian very hard, and Julian has mentioned it quite a bit about his dad working late and then coming home and finding the time to work out with Julian. So his dad definitely gets an assist in this process. But, I mean, Julian came to the Patriots, and he recalled the phone call when Bill Belichick drafted him, and he said, "We don't know what we're going to do with you. We'll set you up, come here, and we'll figure it out." And it took a little while to figure out exactly what he was. Sometimes wide receiver, certainly a returner, played defensive back. He was covering Anquan Boldin in a playoff game. Julian Edelman covering Anquan Boldin in a playoff game. But eventually he became the heir apparent at slot receiver when Danny Amendola, who was signed to replace the guy, Wes Welker, tore his both groins, actually, and was out for a better part of the year. And Edelman stepped in and became that security blanket for Tom Brady, but added a different dimension to that position than even Welker had, and that's the ability to sort of run after the catch. And as you mentioned, just the toughness. And I'll just relay this quick story. Before their last Super Bowl, they lost 2 games in a row in December, which hadn't happened in like 20 years. And Julian was giving the post-game interview, and he was not in a good mood, and it was kind of getting rough with the reporters a little bit. And I actually was in there, and he kind of spit some things back at me, and I ended up walking out. And as I was walking to get to the Pittsburgh locker room, a few minutes later, who was next to me but Julian Edelman? And he looked at me, looked at his feet, looked back up at me and said, "Sorry, man. I'm sorry I was a blank." He said, "You just know I hate losing. I really hate losing." And I think you saw that drive in that player, not just every single game, but in every single practice. I mean, he hated losing, and he was such a critical part of what they've accomplished here over the last 2 decades.
We'll have you be part of the conversation here at Mike Giardi. We love having you up there. Peter, and I think of these big moments that he was in that sort of punctuate my love of the NFL over the past 12 years.
Yeah, so clutch, so tough. To just follow up on what Mike's saying, similar situation with me. It was a Saturday game the last season where Brady was there. They played the Bills. I was working the sidelines. I went to practice that Friday, and Edelman was just on the bike, not doing anything, and just kind of gingerly walking around and hadn't done much the last few weeks. And the expectation was he wasn't going to play. Sure enough, Edelman comes out, running out of the tunnel after going into the locker room and has the game-tying 2-point conversion, could barely walk and makes that happen. He's one of the toughest players I've ever seen in the league, but he's also one of the most clutch in Boston sports history.
Sure.
We can go to Big Papi. We could talk Patrice Bergeron. You could do Larry Bird, whoever. I think Julian Edelman and Tom Brady are in that conversation. 3 quick moments that I think show you the Edelman experience. This is down 8 points in an AFC Championship game. Throws the deep pass. Obviously, it's caught by Amendola, and they go on to beat the Ravens and go to the Super Bowl. Well, that Super Bowl that year, they're playing in the biggest Super Bowl where it's all these points against Russell Wilson and Tom Brady, and sure enough, with 2 minutes left to go in the big game, it's Julian Edelman scoring the game-tying touchdown.
Against Seattle, yeah.
Against Seattle, and you're like, all right, what else can this guy do?
He can do it all.
He can do it all. So if you go into the Seattle game,
there we go.
Okay, so you have the Seattle game, and it's finally, I'm going to be the one. I'm going to be the man. I'm going to make sure.
Remember that route he ran?
It was an incredible route.
Wide open.
Skates. And then, of course, there's the catch of all catches in a Super Bowl against the Falcons.
Here we go.
This is it. You know, they're down 28-3. They're coming all the way back, and that's a catch. Somehow that's a catch. That keeps the dream alive. And yet, if you think that's all it is from this 3-time Super Bowl champion, there's actually one more moment. It's a game where the offense wasn't clicking, and it was Julian Edelman as Super Bowl MVP. So there's a lot of great receivers in this league, and I love Calvin Johnson and Randy Moss and Larry Fitzgerald and the rest. I don't know many who have 3 Super Bowl titles and an MVP award and did it in the biggest and brightest of moments. 12 years in the league with Julian Edelman was the epitome of toughness, clutch, and Boston, really. He became that figure of, oh, look at this guy, this undervalued, undrafted guy who can go out there and be so scrappy. So I'm going to miss him. I think he was a unicorn in a world of huge wide receivers with big numbers. Julian Edelman didn't have the biggest numbers or do the crazy highlights. No, he just came up in the biggest of moments and represented so much for that team.
Patriots fans certainly going to miss him, but I think football fans definitely going to miss him. But I also get this feeling that he's not going anywhere. Like, we're not done with Julian Edelman.
I don't know, he got beamed up by the space.
Yeah, he's got more for us. He's got more in store. Football players, we kind of have a saying, right, that you die twice. And when you retire, that's your first death. And I think the video, if you have not seen the video that Julian Edelman posted on his retirement speech and everything that, you know, that the game meant to him, do yourself a favor. The next time we go to commercial, go on your phone or your device, go to Twitter, watch the video. I think it was so fantastically done. He was eloquent in the way that he handled it, and yet he maintained his composure, which is not easy to do. Anytime I see a player retiring from sport, it brings you back, right? We all personalize everything. The Julian stories, you personalize your own retirements. It's an emotional time, and for him to do what he did, go up there on his own and sit in that chair and reflect back and talk about it, I mean, it was just another masterful performance. You showed the great plays and the great catches. I think that's how we all remember him, but seeing him sitting in that chair and listen to the play-by-play going on around him as he looked around the stadium and kind of had his final little moment. That's a special moment for Julian and for every player that doesn't get that. It's great to see a player have that moment and have that send-off. The highlights that you showed are great, and the catches, the second best catch in Super Bowl history, no doubt about it.
Oh, second best, Sean?
I think when I think of Julian Edelman, it's the toughness that you talked about. It's the beard that you were referring to, the growth that as a Patriot that he went through. Super Bowl against Seattle, you showed the touchdown catch. How about the hit that he took from Cam Chancellor over the middle and spun around and forearm down and all and ran 10 yards after the fact? Most people would have laid down on the field. He bounced right back up. He took a devastating hit from Buster Screen again in a game against the Jets. Most players would have been off on a stretcher. He bounces right up. That toughness is so big. But I think we talk a lot about this time of year right now, the draft, the pro days, all this stuff that's going on. Julian Edelman's 7th round draft pick, right? Like, this is not a glitz and glamour start to his career. And I just think his story and his perseverance, there's guys out there right now that aren't going to get drafted in the first 2 days. And you know, that's okay. Julian Edelman proved that you can have a great career by being tough, by showing up every day and outworking people.
Well said, Sean. Really well said. In a lot of ways, I think we saw his legacy pour out yesterday. He hadn't announced his retirement for more than 5 minutes, and a civil war broke out on social media about whether he should be a Hall of Famer. People and players are really passionate about Julian Edelman. I screen capped it with my phone yesterday afternoon. The trending topics read as follows: Edelman, Julian, Jules, JE11, Canton, Hall of Fame, all of them for a guy who caught 36 touchdowns and never even made a single Pro Bowl. That's how passionate people feel about him. And is he a Hall of Famer? I don't know. Probably not. He's a legend. There's this great moment in